Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Continuing the Conversation live from the APWA Congress Expo floor at the Expo Experience. My name is Emily Barta, and I will be joining you on this conversation today. And the reason why we call this a conversation is because this is not a session. We're not going to talk to you or at you. You're going to tell us what you want to know. So for everyone here joining us in Denver, welcome. This is your opportunity to get your voice heard, get your concerns out there, and get your questions answered. There's two ways that you can do it. Old school, by raising your hand. We're going to bring you a microphone so everyone can hear you, and we'll go from there. Or new school, if you prefer to use Twitter, just go ahead and send a tweet to hashtag APWAExpo, and you can see it right up there on the top of that plasma. Now, for everyone at home, you have two ways to get your voice heard as well. Again, via Twitter with that hashtag APWAExpo, as well as in the lower left-hand corner of that virtual platform via the Ask a Question button. All right, are we ready to get this conversation going? Yes, and we're going to be doing that with Michelle Vargas, who is the Public Information Officer from the City of Los Angeles, California, Department of Public Works. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, this is kind of a preview for Michelle's session, which is happening at 2 o'clock today. The official title is, so clever, Dangerous Liaisons, Gaining Solid Community Support for Public Works Projects. So give us a little clue. What are you going to talk about?
Well, actually, what I'm going to be talking about is I'm going to be focusing more on stormwater projects and the community relations challenges that we've been facing. The City of Los Angeles has a $500 million bond measure that's currently in place right now. We have a number of projects that have been completed, a number that are actually in progress right now, and a number that are coming down in the pipe. And we have experienced some challenges from the community. And I am part of the Public Affairs Office, which is in charge of doing media relations and community relations. And I'm going to share some tools and tips on what has worked well for us on 4 different stormwater projects.
Because this has kind of become a problem, right? Now, environmental policies specify community engagement, and these are being implemented, which gives the public more of an opportunity to make or break a project.
Yes.
What are you seeing with this? Are you seeing the public supporting you or not supporting you, or how easy or difficult has this been to deal with?
Well, I don't think that there was really that much difference on the amount of support or opposition that we've been getting from the community. It's just that we hear a lot more about it. It's a very empowered stakeholder base that we have, and in the age of the internet, Twitter, Facebook, blogs, we just hear a lot more about how they support us and how they oppose us. But the way we see it is it's also an opportunity for us to be able to share the benefits of our projects.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about how that has worked well for us and how we've used those platforms to share with the community what good we do in the City of Los Angeles.
Because all these tools are really opening up the lines of communication, and that's good and bad, right? Let me just see a show of hands of everyone here in the audience. You know, are you seeing more response from the public because of all these new engagement specifications and social media tools or other sort of ways of communication? Are we seeing this? Yes, basically across the board. And anyone at home, if you want to share your story, we'd love to hear it via Twitter hashtag APWAExpo or in the lower left-hand corner of your virtual platform via the Ask a Question button. Speaking of which, before we go on any further, does anyone here have any questions for Michelle? Well, where do you want this conversation to go for the next 10 minutes? What kind of challenges are you seeing, or what kind of takeaways do you want to experience? Yes, Eric, we're going to bring the microphone over to you. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. So how do you know that the people that are contacting you really represent your actual constituents, as opposed to being the people that blog the most or use Twitter the most?
Right. Well, indeed, of course, there's a lot of folks that are just much more active bloggers or, stakeholders, more vocal than others. But for us, in the City of Los Angeles, as a public agency, it's very important for us to be out there. So basically, as a public agency, anyone that has a stake in our project has an equal say in the kind of work that we do. And we want to be able to work with those that support us. We want to be able to help them have them help us educate the ones that may need a little bit more information on our projects and be able to understand what we do better. But basically, anyone and everyone that has an opinion about our project is a stakeholder for us. And that is a very big challenge for a public agency like ours.
We've got a question from Bill.
How do you get the public involved before they become involved with a problem?
Can you clarify what problem are we speaking with?
Well, usually the public only gets involved when they have a problem with your project, not in advance of that.
Well, we really get started very, very early in the city of Los Angeles. There is a CEQA process, which is California Environmental Quality Act, which details a number of steps that we need to go through in the environmental impact process, or the environmental impact report. But before that even gets launched, we go out into the community during pre-design and tell them, listen, guys, this project is coming to your neighborhood. And we start talking about it in blogs and in the media, and we get it in people's consciousness. Now, obviously, everybody's busy and they go about their own business. Not everybody can pay attention. But from our end, we do everything in our capacity to get that in people's minds and sustain that conversation through design, through construction, and even afterwards.
Now, you said we and our. So you have an entire department. What about a smaller community that doesn't have an entire department or a PIO?
Well, we work very closely with the engineers. We make sure that, you as experts that will be building this project, you're able to kind of consider not only the environmental benefits of your project and the economic benefits of your project, but also the social benefits. Because if those three don't intersect, there really is no good community buy-in or good value to the project you're bringing to the community. So for smaller projects or for smaller communities, it's important for you to work closely with, if not a PIO, somebody that does the communication for you and understands the community and be able to kind of get all on the same page and understand what your different goals are, where your goals intersect, and be able to work towards that together.
I saw a hand before I asked my question. I'm sorry if I butted in. More questions for Michelle Vargas about how to gain community support for your public works projects. You brought up, can't remember if it was Eric or Bill. Bill, I think it was you. You brought up a really good point that sometimes people don't get vocal until there's the negative. Is this what you've experienced? Have you experienced more negative than positive with all of these new technology tools? Let me see a show of hands. Yes, we see more negative. Luckily, not even half. I guess that's good.
Yes.
Okay. If we do get all of these negative comments and criticisms that have a very public and consistently moving forward platforms, because think about it, someone sends a tweet and 400 people retweet it, that's a lot more than someone just turning to their neighbor and having a conversation. What can we do to offset these negative comments?
Well, what I've found is a lot of these negative comments come from misinformation. So it does go back to your agency to be able to educate the people and your constituencies about your project and why this is necessary. In the case of stormwater projects like us, the interesting part about stormwater is it's not very visible. Unlike wastewater where there's a backup on your toilet, the impacts to the constituents are very immediate. Whereas with stormwater, at least in the city of Los Angeles, because we do have two separate systems, the stormwater system is separate from the wastewater, people don't really understand that very well. So we have to put that information out, and we need to be able to share that with the community.
Speaking of sharing, it looks like we have a question or comment from the virtual audience.
There were a few comments, and people said that they get a lot of their information at their public meetings. They go to the public meetings to hear those issues when they're aired out. The recommendation from Lawrence was that you need to go to those early and often. Yeah. We also heard this morning, though, from Ian Hill, who talked about 100 coffees. So maybe, Emily, if you could talk with Michelle about how those who may not have public information officers or those who might not have those kind of resources, how do you pull a group together in your community to have a meeting, or do you turn to the 100 coffees and address them one-on-one?
And so what Ian Hill was mentioning is the concept of 100 coffees, meaning that we need to start action one person at a time. And yes, he was literally saying go out and, talk to 100 people one-on-one and be sure to get your message heard so that they can then become advocates and ambassadors. You know, how do you see that one-on-one interaction helping communities both large and small?
That's definitely one of the things I'm going to be talking about in my presentation. One thing that has worked very well for us is having our key supporters and stakeholders be our message deliverers. Okay. They are involved. There are a lot of community members that are, you know, holding a greater stake in their projects or in their neighborhood than others, and they could be the ones that are going to be our ambassadors. Yeah. For Proposition O, we do have a Citizens Oversight Advisory Committee, which is basically some residents that are very savvy with water quality, that are sitting on a board and managing and making sure that every single dollar of that $500 million that we have is spent towards water quality. And we do depend greatly on them in coming out to community meetings and being able to influence opinion on the project's benefits. In the community level, there are a lot of people that do head up their own community cleanups, their own coastal cleanups. They're the ones that we work very closely with, and they do visitor blog posts on our blogs. They do tweet about us in their own avenues and their own tweet feeds. So that comes very beneficial for us. Absolutely. 100, 1,000 coffees, go for it.
One person at a time. Now, we only have about 3 more minutes here in Denver because everyone at home, they're going to do a prize drawing at 1:15, and I hear it's a pretty good prize. So sorry you missed it, and glad you guys are not going to miss it. So at home, if you have one last question, go ahead and tweet to hashtag APWA Expo, or go down to that lower left-hand corner on the virtual platform and click Ask a Question. And here in Denver, one last question, one last comment, one last concern, one last vote of confidence. Hang on, we're going to check. Wait. Was that a yes or a no? We have one last comment/question from the virtual audience.
Yeah, we had a great question come in. If you could give some tips on how to manage that reporter who consistently leverages any negativity that comes up in the community, who maybe consistently is pushing you on, I hope I'm representing this right, is how do you manage that reporter who you think is going negative all the time?
Well, you know, you have to also understand that reporters have their own reputations to protect, right? So for us, at the Public Affairs Office, we make sure to build relationships with the reporters that have paid close attention to the projects that we have. And again, we go out of our way to make sure that we educate them properly about the things that we do. And then, you know, there are a lot of reporters that have a great reputation and a great support for projects. And there are some that also do have, again, some probably misinformed stories out there. And if they're on a blog, if they're blogging, go out there. Go online as your agency and join in the conversation. And make sure that you get your information out there, or have a coffee or 2 or 3 with that person and find out what exactly interests that particular reporter.
Well, and I think there are just some people out there that are 100% negative about 100% of everything, right? And
I think it really is misinformation, though.
Yeah, but I mean, I think sometimes you have negative people, and hopefully their reputation precedes them, and so the public takes their words with a grain of salt. But on top of that, yes, you know, get out there and find your advocates to correct the misinformation and go on to all of these public avenues where you can do it. All right, you're going to find out more information from Michelle Vargas, Public Information Officer at the City of Los Angeles, California Public Works Department at 2 o'clock. Her session is Dangerous Liaisons, Gaining Solid Community Support for Public Works Projects. At home, you're going to stay tuned because we are going to rebroadcast Mary Monahan's conversation yesterday. She's the Program Director at AECOM and the Chairperson of APWA's International Affairs Committee, and she's going to talk about the global solutions in public works programs. But wait, there's one more thing. Everybody here in Denver and everybody at home, be sure to join us for our next Continuing the Conversation with Kurt Edwards, sitting front and center. He's the Vice President of SOMAS, and he's going to talk to us about the Haiti experience. And that's it. You in Denver know where to go next. You at home, stay tuned. We'll be right back, and let's everyone give a big warm thank you to Michelle Vargas for stopping by.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.